What makes a car engine truly special? Can some car engines be so well made that they just never seem to quit? Let's explore 12 European car engines so dependable, you might never want to let go of your ride. Engine 12, the Volkswagen Type 1. Let's start with an engine that's been around for a long time. The Volkswagen Type 1, also known as the Beetle engine. This air-cooled flat-4 engine is famous for being super simple, which is why so many people love it. It didn't need a radiator because it was cooled by air, making it less complicated. The engine came in sizes from 1.0 to 1.6 liters, making about 25 to 50 horsepower, depending on the version. It had a torque of about 81 Nm and could rev up to about 4,600 RPM. Cars with this engine could go about 60 to 80 mph. Now let's take a look at the pricing. Back in 1938, a car with this engine cost around $995, but that would be like $20,000 today. And now a restored engine could cost you over $5,000. This engine was used in more than 21 million cars like the Volkswagen Beetle, Karmann Ghia, and the Volkswagen Type 2 bus. But why has this simple engine stayed popular for so long? The Volkswagen Type 1 engine is so well loved because it's just not that complicated. It was easy to work on and very dependable. It didn't have a lot of fancy parts that could break, which made it last a very long time, often surpassing 200,000 miles with proper care. But is simplicity truly the key to longevity? Let's find out as we delve deeper. Engine 11, the BMW M30. So moving on, let's talk about the BMW M30, also known as the Big Six. This engine was known for being both strong and dependable. It had a forged steel crankshaft, a strong aluminum head, and a block made of iron with a lot of nickel, all of which helped it last a long time. The M30 came in sizes from 2.5 to 3.5 liters and made about 148 to 215 horsepower, depending on the version. It had a torque of 310 Nm and could rev up to about 6,000 RPM. Cars with this engine could go over 140 mph. A BMW with this engine cost about $10,000 in the late 1960s, which is about $85,000 today. Now, a restored engine could cost you $3,000, $5,000. It was used in cars like the BMW E3, E9, and the early E28 and E34 5 Series. Now, what made this Big Six so special and dependable? The BMW M30 was built to be tough. Its strong parts and design made it last a long time without problems. It was also known for being a very smooth and powerful engine. Cars with this engine could easily clock 250,000 miles when well maintained. Now moving from one German marvel to another. Engine 10, the Mercedes-Benz OM617. Next we have the Mercedes-Benz OM617 diesel engine, which is known for being almost impossible to break. It had a cast iron block, strong parts inside, and some versions even had a turbocharger. The engine was 3.0 liters and made up to 125 horsepower and 250 Nm of torque in the turbo versions. It could rev up to about 4,500 RPM, and cars with this engine could go about 100 mph. Back in the 1970s, cars with this engine cost around $15,000, which is about $100,000 today. A well-maintained OM617 engine might sell for around $2,500 today. More than 3 million of these engines were made and used in cars like the W123, W126, and even the G-Class. But what makes this diesel engine so tough? The Mercedes-Benz OM617 was built like a tank. It was made with strong materials and a simple design that helped it last for many years without needing a lot of repairs. Vehicles with the OM617 often surpass 300,000 miles without major issues. Engine 9, the Fiat Fire. Now let's look at the Fiat Fire engine, which stands for Fully Integrated Robotized Engine. This engine is modern, simple, and good at saving fuel, and it's also known to last a long time. It's built to be light and have parts that don't rub against each other too much. The engine comes in sizes from 0.8 to 1.4 liters and makes about 54 to 100 horsepower. It has a torque of about 88 to 131 Nm, can rev up to about 6,000 RPM. Cars with this engine can usually go about 100 mph. When these engines first came out, they were in cars that cost about $6,000, which would be about $15,000 today. They are still being made today and are in cars like the Fiat Panda, Punto, and even the Alfa Romeo Mito. So what's the secret sauce here? What made this engine special? The Fiat Fire engine is great because it's simple, light, and efficient. It's designed to last a long time, even though it's used in small cars. Cars with Fire engines often reach 200,000 miles with regular upkeep. But can a small, efficient engine really compete with the bigger ones in terms of reliability? Stay tuned. Now moving ahead. Engine 8, the Volvo B230. Next up is the Volvo B230 engine, which is known for being very strong. It has a thick cast iron block and a forged crankshaft. The engine is 2.3 liters and makes about 111 to 165 horsepower, with a torque of 260 Nm. It can rev up to 6,000 RPM, and the turbocharged versions could go over 120 Nm/h. In the 1980s, a car with this engine cost about $18,000, which is about $45,000 today. Over 1 million B230 engines were made and used in cars like the Volvo 240, 740, and 940 series. But what makes this Volvo engine so tough? The Volvo B230 was built to be strong and last a long time. It had strong parts and a design that could handle a lot of use. The B230 engine was known to easily cover 250,000 miles. Engine 7, the Renault Clio. Let's talk about the Renault Clio engine. This engine was simple and built to last. It came in sizes from 0.7 to 1.4 liters, making up to 92 horsepower and 110 Nm of torque. It could rev up to about 6,500 RPM, and cars with it could go about 85 mph. This engine was in cars that cost around $3,000 in the 1960s, which is about $25,000 today. More than 27 million of these engines were made and used in cars like the Renault 4, 5, and 12. What was the magic they put in this simple engine to make it so reliable? The Renault Clio was known for being very simple and strong. It was built to last a long time without needing a lot of repairs, which is why it was used in so many cars. Many of these engines went well beyond 200,000 miles. Engine 6, the Porsche Mesgar Flat 6. Moving on to a performance engine, the Porsche Mesgar Flat 6. This engine is known for both its performance and dependability. It was made by Hans Mesgar and had an air-cooled design in the early versions, and later versions used water cooling. It came in sizes from 2.0 to 4.0 liters, making from 110 to an amazing 700 horsepower in the turbocharged versions. Torque went up to 750 Nm, and the engine could rev from 6,800 to 9,000 RPM, depending on the version. Cars with this engine could go over 200 mph in the turbocharged and GT models. A Porsche 911 with this engine cost around $6,000 in the 1960s, which is about $60,000 today. These engines are very popular and can cost over $10,000 today. The Mesgar engine was used in the Porsche 911, 934, and 935. So what makes this Porsche engine so special? The Porsche Mesgar Flat 6 was built for high performance and reliability. It was made with high-quality parts and a strong design, which is why it was so good in both racing and road cars. The Mesgar engine often surpassed 150,000 miles, especially with good care. Engine 5, the Peugeot XD Diesel. Next, we have the Peugeot XD Diesel engine, which is famous for being very strong and lasting a long time. It had a cast iron block and an aluminum head, and it was made to handle lots of driving. The engine came in sizes from 1.8 to 2.1 liters and made about 60 to 90 horsepower, with a torque of 160 Nm. It could rev up to about 4,800 RPM, and cars with this engine could go about 90 or 100 mph. Cars with this engine cost about $10,000 in the 1980s, which is about $30,000 today. Over 10 million of these engines were made and used in cars like the Peugeot 205, Citroën BX, and even the Ford Escort in some places. But how was it made so dependable? The Peugeot XD Diesel engine was designed to be tough and last a long time. It was built with strong materials and a simple design, which helped it be very dependable. Cars with this engine regularly exceeded 300,000 miles. Engine 4, the Alfa Romeo twin cam. Let's talk about the Alfa Romeo twin-cam engine, which is a symbol of Italian engineering. It was made of all aluminum and had two overhead camshafts, which was rare for its time. The engine came in sizes from 1.3 to 2.0 liters and made about 74 to 150 horsepower. It had a torque of 180 Nm and could rev up to about 6,500 RPM. Cars with this engine could go up to 120 mph. When new, cars with this engine cost about $2,500 in the 1950s, which is about $28,000 today. Now, restored engines can cost over $4,000. This engine was used in classic Alfa Romeos like the Giulia, Spider, and GTV. What makes this Alfa Romeo engine so special? The Alfa Romeo twin cam was special because of its advanced design for the time. It was made with light materials and was built for good performance and long life. Many of the Alfa Romeo twin cam engines surpassed 150,000 miles with careful maintenance. Are advanced designs and good performance always synonymous with reliability? Let's keep going to see if the pattern holds true. Engine 3, the Rover V8. Now let's look at the Rover V8 engine. This engine was originally designed by Buick and later used by Rover. It had a light aluminum block, which made it good for many different uses. The engine came in sizes from 3.5 to 5.0 liters and made about 135 to 220 horsepower, with a torque of 350 Nm. It could rev up to about 5,800 RPM, and cars with it could go over 130 mph. Cars with the Rover V8 engine cost about $2,000 in the 1960s, which is about $40,000 today. More than 300,000 of these engines were made and used in cars like the Land Rover, Range Rover, and the MG V8. What makes this British engine so beloved? The Rover V8 engine was popular because it was light, strong, and dependable. It was used in many different cars and was known for its good performance. The Rover V8 often reached 200,000 plus miles. Engine 2, the Audi 5-cylinder turbo. Nearing the end, we have the Audi 5-cylinder turbo engine, which is famous for its use in racing, especially in the Audi Quattro. Its special feature was its 5-cylinder design, which gave it a good mix of power and smoothness. The engine came in sizes from 2.1 to 2.5 liters and made about 160 to 400 horsepower in the racing versions. Torque went up to 481 Nm, and it could rev up to 70 to 100 RPM. Cars with this engine could go 140 mph, and the race versions could go even faster. Cars with this engine cost about $15,000 in the 1980s, or about $50,000 today. Over 1 million of these engines were made and used in cars like the Audi 200, Sport Quattro, and the Quattro. What makes this Audi engine so special? The Audi 5-cylinder turbo engine was special because of its unique design and strong performance. It was built to handle the tough conditions of racing and was very dependable. Many of these engines reliably went past 150,000 miles. Engine 1, the Lancia Lampredi twin cam. Finally, at the top of our list is the Lancia Lampredi twin cam engine. This engine was designed by Aurelio Lampredi and is known for its performance and reliability. It had an aluminum head with two camshafts and special combustion chambers for good efficiency. The engine came in sizes from 1.3 to 2.0 liters and made about 85 to 160 horsepower. It had a torque of 180 Nm and could rev up to about 7,000 RPM. Cars with this engine could go up to 120 mph. When they first came out, cars with this engine cost about $3,500, which is about $30,000 today. The engine was used in cars like the Lancia Fulvia, Delta Integral, and Beta, with more than 2 million of them made. What makes this Lancia engine so special? The Lancia Lampredi twin cam was made with a very good design and high-quality parts. It was built for great performance and long-term reliability, which is why it's still talked about today. Now, as per many reports and observations, the Lancia Lampredi twin cam often surpassed 150,000 miles with diligent upkeep. So there you have it, 12 European car engines that are so amazing, you might want to keep your car a little longer if it has one. What do you think? Did your favorite make the list? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more cool dives into the world of amazing cars. And if you're curious about some super fast trains, click here to watch our next video.